Hi, I'm Kenny Joya. Welcome to another one of my tutorials. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create sends using real faders in Reaper. Now the purpose of this tutorial is really to focus on certain tracks in your mix. You're not going to use this trick on every single track when you use an effect send. That'll take up too much room and it's not really necessary. But there's always a few tracks that are the most important where this trick will be really helpful. Let's say it's the vocal or guitar solo, or in the song I'm working on here, it's the snare drum. Let's hear this track. I really want to feature that snare drum and add some effects to it, but I know I'm going to be tweaking it many different times during the mix. So if we do it the normal way, right down over here, I have a track with a reverb plugin on it, right here, behaving as an effects return. And then down over here, I have a delay, also being used as an effects return. So normally what you're going to do, if you want to put reverb and delay on a snare, we would grab the routing and drag it, and we would drop it on the reverb track. See how the cursor changes to a patch cable? If we drop it on the reverb, it creates a send. And by default, it's post fader, meaning when we change the volume on the main track, it's going to affect the send, which will work for this. So let's bring this down and add some reverb to our snare. And we can do the same thing for a delay. Drag it, drop it down here, and adjust it for delay. That feels really good right about there. But like I said, I want to readjust this quite often during the mix. And to do that, I have to go up here to the routing and adjust it here. Or I can go to the mixer and adjust it up here, reverb and delay. But that's not as flexible as it can be. It would be much more useful if I had a separate fader down here or over here that we can adjust very quickly without having to open this up. So we could do that by creating separate faders for each send. So let's start by deleting these sends. And let's create two new tracks. We'll name it reverb and delay. And those tracks will be our sends. So now, just drag from here to the reverb, leave it full up as post fader. Do the same with our delay. Then we're going to send from these tracks to our effects return. So grab our reverb, bring it to the reverb. Again, it's full up, post fader. And do the same with the delay. Full up, post fader. So now I want to take these two tracks and take them out of our master parent send, because we don't want the snare coming at the master parent send of these tracks. So let's take the master parent send out of both of them. And now when we send from this track, it's going to go to these two, and from there, go to these two, which is where the effects are actually going to happen. So let's bring the reverb down here and the delay. Let's bring it up to taste. So we basically created the same effect, except now we could adjust it right here instead of going to the routing and adjusting it here. We always have a visual of what's going on. And we can also quickly adjust it in the mixer. Here's our snare. Here's the reverb and delay sends for that snare. That's a lot easier to work with. And it's also very useful if you're using a control surface, as you can use real faders to adjust our effect sends. It's also very helpful if you automate the sends. Because if we did it the other way, we'd have to automate in here, go to our send volume for each one of these, and create an envelope. We could do it a lot easier, selecting them both, type V, and we have a volume envelope for those sends. So let's say I wanted to fade up the effect. Hold down Shift, create a point here and here. Do the same on this one, from here to here. Just grab this, bring it all the way down. Same with this one. And now the effect is going to fade. And we can see it better by changing the automation mode to read. Now we can see what we just did playing back over here. See how the effect fades in? And we have a visual to see what's happening, even if we close the envelopes. Hit V. Now we don't see the envelopes, but we're still going to see the automation. And we can do the same thing for mute automation. Let's go here, create an envelope for mute on both tracks. And let's mute this hit right here. Let's say we wanted to keep it dry. Hold down Shift, create these points, then drag it down. And even with this hidden, we're still going to see what's happening on our sends. We could watch it over here. So we get a better visual readout of what's actually going on. And we can see it in the mixer the same way. Right here. There's one other thing I like to do, although it is optional, is to add a few items to these tracks to make them more obvious what they're doing. So let's go to this track, go to Insert, Empty Item. And let's name this by double-clicking it. We'll name it Reverb Send Snare. And let's choose Stretch to Item. Let's give it a color. I'm going to match the color from here on our snare so it's more obvious. And I'm going to make it the length of the project so we always see it. Then I'm going to copy it and paste it down here and name this one Delay Send Snare. This way it's really obvious what these two tracks are being used for. But like I said, you don't have to do that. I just prefer it because it makes it easier to see what these two tracks are being used for. Like I said, you're not going to do this for every track, but it's really useful for the most important ones, like a vocal or a solo, or in this song, for a snare. And it's even more helpful if you're using a control surface. So that's pretty much it. That's creating sends using real faders in Reaper. I hope you learned something. I hope you can use it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye.